So I think we are thinking about AI as this great sort of horse riding in to be able to fix everything, and then it's going to ride off in the sunset. We're going to have great relationships. We're going to be able to do everything with hardly any FTEs. Our P&Ls are going to look great. Our COGS are going to be fantastic. Okay, but that's not real because there's a difference between P&L and actual loss.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Your Customer Success. My guest today is Dannah Vaughan, the head of customer success for Silverline Solutions. Dannah is a top 100 customer success strategist and a strategic SaaS executive with deep expertise in building post-sale teams that actually move the needle. Dannah is the founder of the Rebels of SaaS, a global community and podcast platform. Her work sits at the intersection of customer success, implementation, and support with a clear focus on taming that operational chaos that we talk about so much while driving that sustainable growth. Dannah amplifies positive disruption across the B2B SaaS ecosystem, believes in challenging the status quo, and importantly, putting humans first. Dannah, welcome to Your Customer, Your Success.
Oh, thank you. And by the way, Gary, I think you have the best podcast voice I think I've probably ever heard. The tone and timbre is true. And then also that you make me sound really interesting in that intro. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're quite welcome. You are very interesting. That's why you're here. But thank you for that comment on my voice. I can't stand the sound of my own voice. One of the reasons I hesitated to do this, but thank you so much. And I've got some special props for you in the background here. Maybe we'll get to that a little bit later, but we are recording this just before Christmas time. The Legos are out. And if you haven't seen my setup before I moved the table for recording these podcasts, the Lego table's behind me usually. So I got a few... That's okay. We're rolling with it. We don't care. You're a busy person. So, so we're going to talk a little bit of everything, I think, today, because when we talked for the first time a few weeks ago, we had a lot in common. We've got like 30 people in common on LinkedIn, and I said, I have to talk to Dannah because I've seen your post out there, and we're on the same wavelength, my friend.
How do we not know each other, Gary? I feel like we're the people. I was just talking to another friend today who's in the community. I'm like, it's like we went to the school in the small town and then realized as adults that we met sometime. But anyway, it's crazy. We should have known each other before now, Gary.
We should have known each other. Yeah, I don't know, but here we are. So I'm glad I met you, and let's get rolling with. I'm going to start out with this one for you. We talk a lot about, sales, post-sales, and everything like that. So, we're talking a little bit about post-sales is where pretty much revenue, the promises meet reality, right? So where do you see from where you sit that reality breaking down most often these days?
Well, I think reality honestly gets broken down quite a bit with the advent of AI and all the great things. I love AI. You and I have had these conversations, and I think that if you're very careful and specific about how you strategically align your accounts and your people to your customers and your engagement, that it works. But it can really go bad quickly. I'll give you an example because I like story time. You ready for this one?
Do it. Yeah.
Okay. I switched cell phone providers. And this is a B2C example. I should probably say this, but it kind of works the same. That's what's crazy about it. So, I switched cell phone providers and ended up having to deal with a chatbot, and I was frustrated and I was exhausted by the time I was done with all of it. And then it took me 3 days to get someone live on the phone to speak with about it and to facilitate some measure of customer service. I really think the thing that we've got to get better at in post sales is we set up all these great expectations. Onboarding, I think, is getting better and more robust. I'm loving the love in the onboarding right now. But the actual support experience, honestly, really is not great. Right. And I think we've got to really talk through that and figure that out in what we do.
And I see it across the board. I mean, I think everybody listening can come up with a couple of those examples. But we have talked about how it's just hard to get a human to talk to. Right. I mean, it's now incredibly difficult depending on who you're talking with, as well as getting somebody to fix the problem quickly. I work with somebody, I'm collaborating with somebody who runs basically a fractional consulting business, and her internet went down through her cable provider. It took them 2 to 3 weeks to fix it. And, a lot of people depend on that they're working remotely, they're working from home. But the telecommunications industry really baffles me because it's all about the communication with humans. And to get a human to help you to fix your problem seems to be getting harder by the day.
It is true. What's interesting about that is it's so weird and wonderful you bring that up. So telecom is actually where I started my career. That
Okay.
was, well, I say that's where I started my career. I was hustling wedding dresses and doing customer service and costumes to get through college. But after that, like my big girl job, if you want to call it,
Right.
it was this telecom job that I ended up leading this great group of engineers and people that would fix cable and keep it running. And back then you could get someone on the phone. I say back
Hmm.
then, right? We're not talking, 30 years ago, but enough years ago. Probably at this point, I think 13 years ago now. But that doesn't happen. If your internet goes out, you're lucky to be able to get somebody on the phone. Usually it's at best, fill out this form and we'll get back to you or something of this. You know what I mean, Gary? It's like,
Right.
what?
Right. And the last time I've got stuck in that loop of doom, as they call it, was with my cable provider. I couldn't get out of the loop to get you know what I mean? And it was so bad. But we're trending kind of in the wrong direction. And I was trying to get through most of this discussion without that word coming up. I just got, you know what I'm going to say, because I use Riverside FM for these shows, and I got a retrospective back for 1 year because I've been doing this 1 year as of last week. And of course, what was the word most said on my podcast in 1 year? 2 letters, AI. So
Somehow, Gary, I'm not surprised by that.
I was gonna try to work that in later.
Mm.
Um, so let's just start it this way. There's a lot of talk about the tools, the frameworks, the automation. What's getting lost in that noise when it comes to building real customer relationships?
So I think we are thinking about AI as this great sort of horse riding in to be able to fix everything. And then it's going to ride off into sunset. We're going to have great relationships. We're going to be able to do everything with hardly any FTEs. Our P&Ls are going to look great. Our COGS are going to be fantastic. Okay, but that's not real because there's a difference between P&L and actual loss. And I think what we're going to see is more and more loss, unfortunately. So, like, the fun, familiar ones in the closet that are going to be coming out, churn, CLTV reductions, NRR is going to go in the toilet continuously because we are trying to push tools to every single type of customer and account. Our customers are not the same. They're human and they're different and they have all these great personas. One of the things that I like to talk about and think about when I think about AI and sort of the trends and what's working and what's not is I think about customers and their journey, not in a linear type of timeline. I think about it through, and I actually got this off of a Martha Stewart podcast, is where the idea came from. I
Martha.
love, I love Martha. She is, but anyway, I won't go on my Martha tangent. Not yet. It will come. But she was talking with a person talking about skincare, and they were working at Mayo Clinic about this fantastic skincare regimen that they were doing. And they were talking about lifespan and how, it's not just this linear journey in terms of how we think and react and evolve. And, I think our customers also do that. And so that's where the whole model that I talk about sometimes, C-SPAN and share about, that's where that came from. And it really is just about two variables across X, Y axes: what kind of value we're bringing our customers and what's the relationship that we have with our customers. And if you think about customers across those two axes and you just break them up in 4 quadrants, you get a couple of cool and interesting things. The two customers, or the two customer groups, if you will, Gary, that I think we're going to find you have to have humans for are the ones that are either emerging or established as customers. And the reason is because if customers are emerging, they have expectations. They haven't quite seen the ROI yet. They need profitability. They need all the love, kindness, compassion, strategy, all the things that, AI can't do yet.
Hmm.
Um, and who is the hardest customer to please, Gary, in terms of like your world and everything you've seen, right? I know it is a big L word customer.
You got me. Go ahead.
Legacy.
Oh,
A legacy. We love our legacy customers. We freaking love them, right? Because
right.
they're going to go they're going to be on our customer advisory boards. They're going to
I got you.
be Yeah,
Hmm.
they're the best. But they also expect a different type of love, care, and affection. They're going to want the CEO or the founder's phone number, that type of deal.
I'll
They're
have
going
that.
to want
Yeah.
to get to you, Gary. If
Hmm.
you're whoever you're working with in that particular time, they're going to want the head honcho, and that head honcho is not driven by AI.
Hmm.
Now, thinking back through the model, there's all kinds of great things. Let's cut through the BS. There's a lot of really great use cases for AI. I think we're doing really great things in onboarding. Let's just say Flola, I'm really loving, right? Doing great
Hmm.
stuff. I'm digging on ramp. There's some really good sort of, I'd say, scripted ability to be able to hold accountable different personas and accounts and also bring visibility to that person's boss to keep the ball rolling, so to speak, in an onboarding scenario. But we can't get lost in the people and the relationships and the thing that we've all really needed from the beginning when we first came up with this customer concept and customer success in general, 20, 25 years ago. It's still a thing, and I just don't know that the boards and the investors and all these folks around, I'm going to say folks because I'm from Eastern North Carolina, I just don't know that everybody really gets that yet.
I don't. I mean, I think people are getting it, but I just still think there is that short term push towards short term goals that's really kind of pushing. Well, I shouldn't. And when you're looking at technology, I get it. There is an eye on the long term success of the organization and in doing things a little bit more efficiently and things like that. But I think a lot of it, we're right now looking at short term goals and the P&L and making quarterly numbers and things like that. And I just cringe when I see the layoffs and layoffs attributed to AI.
Yes.
And I think that is really scaring the bejesus out of people, and rightly so. And it's putting the wrong idea in people's head. Because look, I love AI too. I have two AI clients that I work for. But guess what we do? We're working really hard to test AI and make sure that it is doing what it should do. But because it's still, I call AI, it's in its toddler phase.
So
It's a,
true.
it's a toddler, right?
It's a
Even though
toddler.
now for what we're using it for, it's been around a long time actually, and we've talked about that on this show. It's not a lot of the stuff isn't particularly new, and the concepts aren't particularly new, but the ability to take and digest mass quantities of data and get that out in front of people. But I think what's new is the fact that you and I can just use it to, I don't know, so I could write your show notes when we're done with this. I'm going to look at the show notes. Now, here's what happens. I look at the show notes and go like, that's not really that good. And then I edit it and then I give it feed it. But that's what's kind of new, that like, we can get in front of it. And obviously the quantitative and the computing capabilities are just so far advanced right now. You can take massive amounts of data and put it through and it can summarize things. Okay, that's kind of where we're at. Yes? No? Maybe?
No, yeah, I'd agree. I think that ultimately, that at best, it's the toddler that is able to help with, and a lot of the buzz is it's helping us with the low level tasking. It is, but it's also helping us, I would say, with some of the more interesting, more strategic level stuff. But it's also kind of, I would say, toddler esque phase as well. One of my favorite ways to use AI is actually staircase AI and the whole gain psych sort of RAS model, and
Hmm.
bringing that dashboard in, combining all the fun different ways that communication's coming into your org, Slack, email, communication over your PBX, all those fun things, and then putting all that in a dashboard. I think that fundamentally this health score, or this concept of health score, which I'm not so sure that investors or boards even understand or care so much about that. They just want a proper forecast. But
Hmm.
all of that being said, what's interesting about that is we've always been missing being able to have that full sort of panel view.
Hmm.
So I think one of the ways that AI is going to be very helpful and continuously helpful for us is it's going to help us as leaders to be able to fundamentally understand these are the customers that are actually having issues. These are the risk signs. Hey, there's a red flag here. Go dig into it. And then the orchestrator, if you will, whoever that is, for you and your clients, you're going to be finding that and going and sniffing that thing out, or getting your people to do it. And then that'll hopefully prevent some churn. But yeah, this stuff is also new. It's an old thing that's new. And I just think that it has, like you said, I love that you brought P&L into it.
Mm.
And I'm not surprised, as many people as you talk to about AI in the community, but it's every board wants to hear we're going to be able to cut 25% or
Yeah.
more.
Right.
And here's how. This is what I'm buying.
Right. And here it is. Right. For
And people
those
are
of you,
scared to death. They want to keep
right.
that job.
Right. Right.
So it's
And
like,
no, and a lot of people have talked about just what you talked about. Taking a lot of information from different places and synthesizing it is, in a very general way, what most people are saying to me in terms of client experience, customer success, whatever you call it. I've heard from guest after guest after guest. That's pretty much how they're using it. Right now, SaaS, and for me, in my background, it's more B2B stuff. So you're really building relationships with your clients. And to me, it's still always about the people and using it, tactically. I would say, rather, I wouldn't even say strategically. I think you could use it more tactically than strategically to help you with whatever you're doing. In this case, it's, yeah, if whether it's building some sort of dashboard or scoreboard or health scores, like you mentioned. I'm going to get to that next. Um, Great, but again, it's helping you be a little bit more efficient. Not, if people are panicked, it's replacing them. And in some instances, maybe it is, because it depends on what you do. If you're there to just open it, open a new account and you're filling out a manual form manually, then, well, that's something to be automated. But we've been automating that stuff for forever, even in the investment world, where we've been doing it this way for
yeah.
over 30 years. We talked about this. We don't call it customer success or like but it's the same kind of thing. We build relationships with somebody who's basically there post sales, as we say in SaaS, but you're usually there in the sales process, and you're there. In our world, we go to RFP. There isn't a retention that you're necessarily renewing every year. In the investment world, you're going to go through an RFP process. So that's even worse in some instances. But okay, I'm getting off track. I want to get back to the health scores. I want to hear where I didn't actually even have this in my notes, but you brought it up. I want to hear where you stand on the health scores, because I hear a lot of talk in the kind of LinkedIn sphere, as I call it, about this. I think it's simple stuff. It shouldn't be that hard to have a basic health score. I know people saying to get rid of them; they're useless. You can't exactly predict churn ever, I don't think, but I don't know. I think they're useful. I think you got to have them. What say you?
It's so funny. I had this person and they call themselves an executive. They're definitely a tactical leader. I'll just put it that way. And it was so funny because every time a customer would leave, they would get so upset if it hadn't been predicted prior to by a customer success person in that organization. And it was just always so comical to me because you can be fantastic at your model and have everything buttoned up. Um, and honestly, customers still leave and it can be missed. It doesn't mean we
Right.
all want to get in front of things from a health perspective, and honestly, I think it's an indicator at best. What I think we've done wrong is spend way too much time figuring out where and how to do the actual implementation of health scores in organizations. We just need to be able to use a tool, something AI driven, something quantitative to help, like for example, Staircase AI that Gainsight acquired, and just literally use the tools that we have as an indicator and recognize it's an indicator, and then just keep moving along. Because if we waste our time preparing, a 17 variable manual, all these different variables are manual that, you have your teams wasting their time trying to input. And then you have the fundamentally the most important one, especially for the customers that have an assigned person, which is honestly getting more and more rare, the human gut feeling. I always put that in
Mm.
my models, even though, that's one that I've definitely had. Are you sure you need that? That's not a good, but all of that being said, that whole human gut factor, because I've had people who have looked on a Gainsight health dashboard, they look great on 360, but that account's
Mm-hmm.
in the toilet and that CSM knows it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes it's the flip. So I think we need to be more, and you probably already get this just from your world and how you think. And I've learned this in the time that we've spent together. Um, One thing that Sean Reed, who he came on and shared a conversation on my show a while back, that I really think that he gets right is that we should be talking more about CLTV and things that, what's the probability of these accounts renewing unless this is a health score, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a basic dashboard. It's like saying you don't need the speedometer in your car. Like, you should know if you're speeding,
Yeah.
You're going faster than everybody. But I mean, it shouldn't be that complicated. But I think the most important part is just what you said. It's that if you have a human who's talking to your client, and I use the word client, not customer, because I think customer is more retail, B2C for me, then they have that gut instinct. If they're at all experienced and you've been working in this for 30 years, I just call it my spidey sense, right?
Your
It's
spidey
my
sense. Yeah.
I just knew my spidey, and let me tell you, I'm not, kind of patting myself on the back, but I am. My spidey sense was basically never wrong. Okay, you just know these people, and when you're talking to them day in day out for years, you know when something's up. You know when they change, and it's just, I've talked about this I did some of my solo podcasts, just the tone, their body language, or the way they're communicating with you, it just changes. And if you know those personalities, now everybody's a little different. Those personalities, it just something's off. And so I've had these instances where like they're just not happy. They're red. And well, what do you mean? I need tangible results. And what are the issues? And then you just solve the issue. Well, if you get something wrong 3 months out of the past six, and you've changed teams and there's been turnover, they know something's up. And just because you haven't had a mistake, well, you haven't had a mistake in 3 months. Well, they're still kind of looking at you like, with the evil eye. So and then something goes wrong. The other flip side is that you just don't know sometimes, because it could be just based on a corporate action, right? There's some sort of merger. They have got a provider somewhere else, and your client leaves, your champion leaves, they go get another job, somebody else comes in. There's just things that just happen that you have no control over. So the fact you say, well, this isn't an active predictor of churn and all that, just you're never going to be accurate. It's like, it's like predicting who's going to win the World Series next year. You don't know until Game 6 of the World Series. And this year you didn't know to Game 7. This year you didn't know to the ninth inning, 10th inning, right? I mean, you went to Game 7. So the closer you get, you might know these things, but you just don't know them ahead of time sometimes. I don't know. So I think it's much ado about, I wouldn't say nothing because it's important, but yeah, I think you just have to have them and keep it simple, right?
100%. I love that. Indicator, speedometer. In fact, I've never heard your analogy there on the speedometer, but let me be clear. The solo pods that about, posturing, recognizing the way that you read the room, that kind of stuff, that's the stuff that we as leaders, in my humble opinion, and this is the only soapbox, at least in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to get on, Gary, I promise. We got to do that. We got to teach our teams how to do that stuff. Mm-hmm. Because for so long, they've been living in tickets. They've been fighting fires. They've been doing all the stuff that we've been talking about on LinkedIn ecosphere, as you like to put it. I think that's how you worded it.
The LinkedInosphere, yes.
The LinkedInosphere. It's like, oh, well, you need your CSMs to be proactive. Okay. Well, I mean, is anybody able to do that before AI came? No, not really. I mean, you could segment accounts and maybe throw bodies at, and I do agree. In some cases, they were probably, depending on the segment or how you categorize customers, probably overstaffed potentially.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there's that white level glove service that honestly is the competitive differentiator. And as these B2B SaaS organizations, I talk to so many founders and it's like, oh, well, we can probably do this or we can do that. And my head goes, you can stand out just by having a human answer the phone. It sounds simple. You don't even have to pay the human a lot, but just to have a human answer the phone that, they don't have to go through the minutia of, 3 days of being moved back and forth, like you said, being stuck in the cycle, and get some straight help. That is a thing. That's how you get a leg up from, but those things are tough. It's hard because, then you go into, just like you've mentioned before, having to make those arguments for that resource. And in a time of leanness, everybody goes back to P&L, and then we all get stuck in our own cycles, don't we, Gary?
We do, but and I just feel like it's harder to draw that distinction to the P&L between the relationship management aspect of what you're doing, because I think it's a long-term gain that isn't quite measurable at all in the short term. And what you respond to, this gets back to, we are just so short-term focused especially in corporations. We got quarterly earnings, that building the relationship and all that sounds nice, but where's the ROI? The CXosphere, we're always talking about where's the ROI in CX. Well, that's kind of where it is, but it's so intangible sometimes, even though it's tangible if you know what you're talking about, that it gets lost because I need results now. That's why I think sales, to me, sales is overvalued, and the customer success function of the client experience function is undervalued because sales is so tangible. We increased revenue 15.3% last year. You know why? Because it's easy to calculate. It's not easy to calculate. Did I build a relationship with my client this year? Did I call them when I know they're having a rough time with whatever? Sometimes you get to know these people. You know they're having a tough time with life, whatever, and you get on and just saying, "God, you know what? I think I know that we're going to have a technology upgrade, and we're expecting we might actually be going down. So maybe get if you're running your quarterly reports, make sure everybody's done by Friday, that kind of thing, and just giving a head start." And you proactively went out to them and you know what I mean and looked out for them makes such a huge difference that how do you measure that? What dashboard is that on? How right? So that's what keeps customers interested and keeps them to me green. It's more the people than anything. It's always been in my business. It's always been a relationship business. I don't care what anybody says. And you can put all the technology in front of them, and investments is fancy stuff. And there's all sorts of quantitative, fancy investment terms and portfolio management stuff. But in the end, it's those people creating that connection. You got to perform. If you're investment management, you got to beat your benchmarks if that's what you're doing. If you're not, you're going to get on watch and you're going to get sent packing. But with asset servicing, it's all service related. So it's too complicated and people don't really understand that. But it's the people behind it. And if you keep fragmenting it and throwing technology in the client's face, that's going to break down the kind of people bonds that you're striving to build.
I could not agree more with everything you just said. I totally think that that's true. And I think, unfortunately, we've seen some of that because there's always been this healthy tension between sales and success. And, and I think what that has turned into over time, unfortunately, is because of those short-term, the short-term visibility to sales successes, you've seen less and less chief, even though if you look up the metrics and Google it, it says there's more chief customer officers than ever. I don't think that's necessarily
Really?
reality. Oh yeah. I Googled it, believe
Who's
it or not, 2 weeks ago. And I'm like, who's
who
hiring a CCO? Because everybody's putting them under CROs.
did they use AI to calculate that?
They did.
Yeah.
They did. They did, Gary. And it's like, what?
Maybe we got to test that model. We got to
I
put a
need to
note
know.
down.
We need to know because the thing is, when you roll customer success under a revenue leader, it's what are your thoughts there? Let me ask that. What are your thoughts there?
It's a it depends, right? I mean,
Okay.
if in my world, it's basically the whole world was together. The best way to do it is combine everything into what institutional marketing and sales and service. And so the sales team, the client, what we used to call client service, client experience team, and the consultant team, which is basically product, we're all together. That's the best way to do it. They're all one team going up to the same leader. Call that person whatever the hell you want, but that's the best way to do it I've seen in investment servicing. Now I've seen it where everything's all split and functionalized and it's silo mania, and I don't think that works very well. So to me, I think if you have product sales and client experience or customer success, whatever you want to call it, whatever you're doing, all kind of under the same person, it depends on the size of the organization, of course, but that to me makes a whole lot of sense because you all should be working together. And in my world, that's what you have to do. And was it always perfect? No. Was it messy sometimes? Yeah. But I see everybody struggling with this so badly right now, and I don't understand why.
Yeah, I really think it's just the lack of a lot, and it's not every CRO. There are some brilliant CROs that I know in the world, but I just think that a lot of CROs lack the ability and appreciation of what that advocacy and customer sort of arm really brings because of
Right.
exactly what you just said, that kind of long relationship type of thing. And what I see is, and the reason why I say that is I see less and less healthy customer functional, organizations that have what they need from a people and process and tooling standpoint. They don't have the investment. And I see that because there's so many credible CS people on the market.
Hmm.
And then I see, sales organizations that make it through those cycles. Even if the CS leader, so to speak, gets kicked to boot after quarter two, that sales leader is going to stay and they're fine for at least another 2 quarters. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I just get a little bit in my feels about it when I think about the way some of this is played out. And unfortunately, CS leaders, I think that the senior CS leader, the actual retention rate was something like 18 months that someone stayed, is what I heard. The very first time I went to Pulse, which was in San Francisco, that's what was shared, was 18 months. And I can't remember who I was actually listening to, whose workshop I was in when that was shared, but it was good because I learned just how tricky it is to stay long-term in a position like customer success as a leader. But I would say now it may be half of that, if even. And so many of us have dealt with layoffs. I mean, I always like to say, if you haven't dealt with 1, 2, or 3 layoffs in your career, are you really leading a functional go-to-market team? I don't think so. I mean, do I have stuff to learn all the time? Heck yes, Gary. I'm learning constantly. I love it. Do I know everything? No. But what I do know is I've been doing this for almost 14 years. My teams have delivered some really cool metrics. I've still been laid off 3 times. You know what I mean?
Yeah, believe me, I know what you mean, unfortunately.
You look at my resume, it's like, oh, she was there for 5 months. Why? Oh, well, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. But that is, that is really why it concerns me, because I've lived through it, but I see good people just being, sent out like yesterday's newspaper, which, you remember those newspapers?
I loved newspapers. There was something about the feel of it. That's why I still love books.
Yeah, I do. As much as I have a lot of audiobooks, when I'm walking or I'm at the gym and stuff, but I am so back into just a hardcover book, and it's makes such a difference. But I miss the paper, and I've been trying to teach my kids, and so now actually I subscribe online to the paper I grew up reading when I was a kid. I grew up in New York, so I would read Newsday, and I tell them the first thing I would do every day, I'd get that paper, and of course I didn't read the news. I'd flip it over, go to the back page, and do the sports. And then you'd go to the standings and you'd see what time the games are, who's playing who, but you'd read all about the teams and everything like that. And it was actually reading, because they don't really read that much. And my wife and I are struggling with them. They're great students, but we're like, they don't read. Like, they have their hand.
How old are they? How old are
they? Are 9 and 14.
And one of your kids likes Lego, right?
They both do. Yeah.
They both do. Yeah.
They both do. Yeah. That's
yeah.
Yep. So they're great with that kind of stuff, but they just don't read. Like, they don't sit with a book or a magazine. Or every day I would start my day pretty much reading the newspaper, seeing what the Mets did, seeing what the Islanders did, seeing what the Jets did, which is usually lose. But and then you would be interested in the news, actually, and you would watch the actual news. And so you would learn about the world and stuff. So they're getting there. They're interested. The little one's very interested in the world and politics and news and, all sorts of stuff. Why are those 2 countries at war? He always asks me, like, I don't understand, Dad. And so he's real into it. So that is good, but they don't read enough. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, they all want to be in I always say the electronics, my kid. But see, that's the thing. I have an 8-year-old, and unfortunately, I have to cut the phone off, because it all goes back to what we've been talking about the whole freaking time, Gary. People have to remember how to be human in all of this. Like, when we're talking about robotics and the jobs are going to get lost and blah, 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 blah. Agreed. There's going to be some shift in the job market. But guess what? We're still human, but we have to teach our kids and our people, our teams, how to do all those things that you do, like those solo podcasts that you do about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I know, and that's what worries me. You've got it, like they've got to learn to actually talk to people. The other thing we used to do is I actually have it around this computer is an actual phone, and so we used to people used to call each other at work, believe it or not. And remember speed dial? I think you're not nearly as aged as I am. I won't use the word old.
Well, talk about speed dial, and then I'm going to tell you a funny story.
Yeah, I'm just saying, we used to actually just call each other. And this is what people get so frustrated with meetings and having too much meetings. The reason we have too many meetings these days is because you need a goddamn meeting to talk to each other. And
Hey, okay, right.
so
Yeah.
instead of people used to pick up the phone and call them. My client, they had an accounting problem. They called the accounting manager. They called Bill or whoever the hell it is. And then if they're still having problems, you're like, we don't know what's going on. We got to. And so people would actually call each other day in day out, and you wouldn't need to wait for the meeting. Now we all have to have a freaking Teams meeting, and I have to get 20 people on at the same time. So that's going to take 3.5 weeks to figure. But you know what I'm saying? So then everybody has too many meetings where, you know what? Just call each other. And I don't know that anybody uses the phone because towards the end of my tenure at a large company, I had maybe one or two clients that were old school and would call me. But otherwise, it was send an email. We need to set up a meeting. Like, you know what I mean? And it just, to me, that just slows everything down. So that's an example to me of how technology is not actually efficient, where we've had technology for years that was efficient. It's called a phone. And the really efficient part of the technology was called a speed dial. I don't know.
I love the speed dials. I actually have. So let me tell you, I actually have from my first gig. Remember, I told you I was in telecom. I worked for CenturyLink, who used to be Carolina Telephone on the East Coast. And one of the things that I have, and I hold it close and dear to my heart, is this ugly avocado 1970s phone that's rotary dial. It was in my central
Rotary.
office. It's rotary dial. It was in my central office, Gary. And it didn't even have a phone jack you could plug it in. It is
Mhm.
actually a 2-wire, but I
Oh,
love
wow.
this. I love this old phone because I tell you, the thing about this phone that I loved is if I had a circuit that was down in the middle of nowhere, let's just say Jones County, and I needed to report in to the FBI and to local entities what was going on with it, I didn't have to worry, Gary, because I had
Hmm.
that 2-wire Peacock Avocado rotary phone. That phone
Hmm.
worked when the cell phone signals were down, when I couldn't get a signal. I didn't have to worry because
When
even
the
if
power's out.
the grid went down, we
Hmm.
had floods, torrential floods, like at massive levels here in Eastern North Carolina.
Yeah.
We were okay. We had that rotary phone. So when I left CenturyLink, I was gifted that rotary phone, and it still sits on my shelf. If I'm having a bad day, I'll go
It's
look
an
at
antique.
my
Yeah.
avocado phone. But it shouldn't be because it works. And
Uh,
why do we change stuff that works?
I,
And I'm big on
because
innovation.
of
It's very
technology.
apropos.
Progress in technology.
It's
But you're right. I worry about that all the time. But that is one of the reasons I still actually have a phone. You could actually power um, the router temporarily with the power supply, and then if you needed that is one of the reasons actually, because you got to be your power your phone and things like that, but it's also for emergency purposes just in case. But it is still there. Do we ever use it? Barely, but yeah, it is still there. I do have to admit. But that was part of the equation back in the day, the phone, and then the long phone cords.
the long
So
phone
we used to
cord.
have it the one on the wall in the kitchen, and then you would just stretch
Yes.
it
And
all
you
the
could
way
stretch
around.
it and then
Yeah.
you could have a conversation. And then I had my own phone line, a separate phone line upstairs. I remember that. And it's funny because my guys at CenturyLink, my techs would talk about like party lines and things like that.
Hmm.
And whenever you go into the really older office buildings, you'd see where they were talking about people and job loss and AI. You'd see where there were tons of empty ashtrays and vending machines and even Coke cans, where all these operators that were plugging in back in the
Hmm.
day weren't obviously needed as we continue to evolve this progress. But talk about creepy. It was such a surreal feeling.
Really weird. I don't know. I was just thinking about this the other day. Do you ever think there's any way it comes back? Because with all the technology, I would think you could just, instead of setting up a FaceTime, just call somebody and have a screen pop up somewhere. And in other words, have a like a dashboard at home that that works like a phone. And then you just, I don't know. If somebody creates something that's easy to use, I think there's the opportunity there, because I just feel like that's lost. We're using the phone. The phones could lose a charge. You could lose your phone. It could be upstairs, and what have you. But I don't know. Maybe I'm waxing poetic and getting too sentimental about the old days between newspapers and phones. But all right, so we got to take this back in the direction we were going.
We always have so much fun when we go on the other road, Gary.
Let's go. Let's get. We're getting late. So let me come up with one more before we hit the segments.
You
Let
got it.
me give you this. All right, let's go with this one. Let's give a little bit of career advice. What career myth in tech do you think does real damage to talented leaders? Total change of pace.
I think the biggest thing is go and learn as much about AI as you can, and that's how you survive.
That's
Because
it. Yeah.
that's it. Because I think that people survive by learning how to be more strategic and more adept at delivering people skills. And so I think as leaders in tech, we have to promote other leaders in tech to go and learn more of that human stuff too. Don't stay
Well,
away from AI, but
yeah. Well, here's the thing though. Where the heck do you learn about AI? Because I don't know that anybody's talking about it with any sort of common sense, right?
I know it's
And
true. Yeah, it's all inflated to your point. It's like, hey, go learn about because it's somebody trying to sell something 75% of the time.
right, especially agentic AI,
Agentic AI.
right? So, because that's the way we say it, we're living in the age of AI. So, but the agentic thing is, I don't think anybody knows what they're talking about, and they're just throwing that one out there. But that's, I'm actually taking a course now that's actually pretty good because I want to learn from the bottom up. Now, I've taken a few courses. One was from Babson, one of my alma maters, where I went to business school, and this guy was great. And halfway through the course, I realized it was recorded in 2018, but it was still relevant. Isn't that interesting? This was like a year ago that, LLMs and this, and he had the whole everything kind of broken down. All this stuff, it was 6 or 7 years ago. So again, we're talking, it's not actually new. And I think it's a little bit, we're overboard with the marketing hype, and we've talked about that quite a bit on this show, and I want to rehash that. But I think it is time that we hit the segments, Dana. Let's roll.
Let's do it.
Okay, it is time for Does It Hold Water, my favorite segment. This is where I ask our guests to channel their inner Mona Lisa Vito and be our resident expert witness for the day. And I read a piece of thought leadership, a quote, something like that as the defense, and you're going to let me know if the defense case hold water. You ready?
Let's go for it.
Easy one today. Now, it is Christmas time. We've got the lights out, we got the Legos out. I am not going to sing Joy to the World because if I sing, no one will ever listen to this podcast ever again. But the defense today says, you know what? Joy and happiness, they're the same thing. Joy and happiness, the same thing. Does the defense case hold water?
No. And here's why. You ready for this, Gary?
Ready.
Joy is the things that we find every day in our life that we kind of sometimes we get dealt different circumstances, like we get laid off, or we don't get that promotion, or we can't find that job where we're making exactly what we think we should. But somehow, in the midst of all of that, we still go and we create things like this fantastic show that we're on right now, or Rebels of Sass, which I won't throw out the stuff too much, but stuff like that, right? I mean, we find joy in things that we have very little control over. And I think we find that joy. What's different between that and happiness is something that we think in our mind is an ideal. We want to make $500,000 a year. And in order to do that, we need to go do this, this, and this, and this, and everything needs to work out just like this. I think happiness is this illusion that we're all chasing. And I think joy is the thing that we find in the simple things that just sort of happen to us. And I'll say it straight up. That's something that I actually was in church yesterday. It was shared by the pastor at church, not my regular church. I was visiting one here locally, and it was really crazy cool. He's like, that joy is something that we find in our everyday lives versus happiness just being this pursuit of whatever. And I couldn't help but think about that because, my first layoff, and I've had 3 now, completely out of my control, fun stuff. It's like the first one happened, I was 31 years old. I said, hey, how in the heck did this happen? Like almost 115% NRR, $37 million worth of organic rev growth. We clearly articulated that it came from my org, yet I don't have a job after 14 months, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that really sucked. I felt like there was no way, this happiness, this pursuit of being this executive VP person inside of this org, this has got to be, this is what I am. But I have found so much joy, though, in the building up and figuring out that I've been laid off and gotten back up, and nothing can hurt me now. Like, it's like, as a leader, I want to be able to empower other people in the conversations around, hey, believe in yourself, create value in yourself, help other people with that. and good things will happen, and I think that's joy versus happiness.
Yeah, that's beautifully said, and I don't wanna ruin it by giving my take on it other than to say that's exactly it. We're here to help people be a little bit better at what they do, and this has been, just a work of joy for me for the past year, and I'm gonna leave it just at that.
And I can tell because in the work that you've brought and what you share, I mean, I'm not just saying this because I'm here with you. I really do. I think what you're doing for people is big and it does matter. And I think stuff like this is stuff that we all have got to be working through together. And the fact that you're choosing to do good things with that is kind of a cool thing. That's joy, Gary.
No, thank you. I appreciate that, and you as well, and your show is doing the same thing, so good for you, and well done.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You got it. Let's hit chip shots.
Let's do it.
All right, it is time for chip shots. These are our fun yet still professional conversational questions, a little shorter in scope, but they lead to a conversation that's sometimes longer than the other segments. But what the hell? Let's go for it. We try to go for 3 or 4, and we always start with the book question. So, what's one book that has significantly influenced you professionally, personally, or both?
It's Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, absolutely. And the reason is it definitively teaches you the most important skill in customer success for now and toward the future as AI takes the low lift stuff off, if you want to articulate it that way. We
Mm-hmm.
have to know how to negotiate. And to
Mm,
do that, we need to be able to both mirror our customers and mirror internally across departmentally to be able to make people feel the two things they really need to feel. And Chris Voss talks about this in this book. You have to feel safe and you have to feel in control. And if you can do both of those
mm.
things and convince your customers that they have those things, you're cool. And then you can take that stuff back internally and get what you need from product, marketing, your support team, your experience team, your implementation team, all of those other pieces of the customer pie.
Interesting. So, what were those 2 things again?
Safety
And safety,
and being in control. Those are
being
the two
yeah, okay.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, so control yeah, that is it because it's a little bit what I say is trust and bringing order to the chaos.
Bringing order to the chaos.
So that's your job if you're a client relationship, customer success, whatever we wanna call ourselves. I think that's really your job. Yes?
That's the job. That's totally the job.
Yeah, interesting. So interesting one. Good for you. Awesome, thank you for that. Alright, for you, I don't know who this is. This could go anywhere with you, the leader question. If you could spend
Mhm.
the day chatting with a current leader or a real leader, any profession, any industry, who would it be and what would you hope to learn?
Ah, this one's easy.
Yeah.
Martha Stewart.
Is yeah,
Absolutely.
we're
Now
going
let me
back to
tell you
Martha.
why. Let me tell you
Yeah,
why.
no, please.
So, first of all, I'd want to ask her what Snoop Dogg likes on his pizza. That's the first thing. But okay, but hold on. I'm
Do
going to be serious. I'm going to be serious. The thing that's so important that Martha gets that I think so few leaders have not been able to accomplish is she has the ability to be resilient. She's been to
Yeah, sure.
jail. Okay.
Mhm.
She's been to jail. She's had several iterations of herself. She's always been able to get back up on her feet. And I'm always big on, I talk about pivot, the ability to pivot. And I think that is so important in the job market that we're in, especially.
Mhm.
And in a job market where you've got so many really smart, talented leaders with short 4 to 9 month stints at these organizations,
Mm.
like me, right?
Mhm.
It's like there's some of these organizations and their leaders are fundamentally broken. And being able to pivot and have conversations around that, it's just really stinking important.
Mhm.
And, we all have to be able to create value bigger than ourselves as the job market changes, as values change, as jobs in general may, in certain areas, maybe there's less opportunity than what there was. And I think the biggest thing is we have to be able to be resilient. That's what I want to learn from Martha.
That is something that is well said. I would have not seen that coming other than the allusion you made earlier in the episode. I you love wow. I
I
know she
do.
is.
She is my jam, and I love her. And honestly, I listen to her podcast. I am on the market for so have you heard of Elf on the Shelf? You have a
Yeah.
9-year-old. Okay, there's a
Yep.
Martha. Let me tell you, this woman is brilliant. She has
Yeah.
went to market with a Martha on the mantle, Gary.
Um,
Not only can you go buy Martha on the Mantle, you can buy a Snoop on a stoop.
A
Okay.
Snoop on a Snoop.
At Walmart, $25. And then, of course, you have to have accessories for her. You have to go buy the clothes and it is insane. And you're like, well, people wouldn't buy that. Gary, they buy it just like they bought her Kmart line. Like, she's brilliant from a go-to-market standpoint. It's about resilience and figuring out how to go to market with things. And man, she really gets that.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, I don't know. Maybe the Gary on the refrigerator for I don't know what I would.
I don't even know what we would do. Yeah, we'd have to come up with something good.
The Gary on the golf cart. All right,
Gary on the golf.
So that's a good one. Like I said, I didn't see that coming at all. But Martha Stewart, I hadn't even thought of Martha in a bit. So definitely kind of rang a new bell for me. Awesome. Good one. All right. This is a great one for you. What's one question you always ask customers or clients that never fails to reveal something new?
Yeah. So what did you not catch on the P&L, that was a loss? And the reason why I do that is because it tells me a couple things. Most importantly, it tells me the maturation of the person I'm talking to and how much pull they actually have in the decision process. More operational, junior focused person is going to be very, well, I really didn't know. But if you start to talk to somebody, you'll start to see, and I know you know what I'm talking about, somebody who's talking more about those lagging indicators that we say don't matter or are less important, but they really are super important, right? They're the actual survivability and profitability of the organization. I think it's important to ask that. And then you really learn where the good stuff is and can tease it out to work through either a get to green plan or to, say the customer's in a bad spot, or to figure out how to drive your solution into their world in a way that they can find tangible outcomes and values in their language. And then they'll buy your stuff and continue to buy it and buy more, which is kind of what we are supposed to do.
This is what you're supposed to do. Interesting. That's a good way of going about it. I would never have thought of that one. So that is a good one to have in your toolkit. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Great question.
All right. Yeah, thanks. All right. So one more. We're calling an audible. We're going off the usual tangent. We're looking back here. We want to know what is on your Santa list in terms of Legos.
Oh, this one is my favorite. So I think in terms of Legos, what I would love to have is the coveted. I love the haunted houses. So I would love, yes, there are several haunted houses, all of which are silly expensive from a collector's standpoint. But any of those I would love to have. They are amazing. And I also want to get the Black Cat Lego set. I have not done that one yet. I do have one on deck I'm really excited about. I've got the Jaws Lego set, which is also my favorite movie. So I'm really excited about putting that one together. But it's an undertaking. So that's why I'm a little like, I got to make sure I've got time to get this done right.
Good for you. I love that you're still so into it. This is a big Lego house, as you could see. And like I said, I moved the Lego table for each episode. So most listeners probably don't know, but anybody who's talked to me before recording sees the giant Lego table behind me. And so it is all about Legos. And I don't know, the kids have been pretty good. So maybe Santa will be good to them this year as well. So,
ooh, okay. Well, you're going to have to let me know what they get. That's exciting.
Yeah, no, it is. They get fired up and they love it. So it's been great for them. All right. Speaking of great, Dannah Vaughan, you have been an amazing guest. Thank you so much. But before we go, let everybody know where they can find you and your show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Gary. And, obviously I'm all over LinkedIn, but the place to find the most about me is www.dannahvaughan.com and or just hit me up with a DM on LinkedIn and hit the bell to connect.
And the show?
And the show is Rebels of SaaS. Yep.
There you go. And I'll be checking out more of those episodes for sure. And thank you all so much for joining Your Customer, Your Success. This might come out after the holidays, but Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. That's all for today. Bye for now. That's a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We hope you found something insightful that will enhance your experiences and drive your success. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a review and share your thoughts to help us improve the show. Don't forget to head on over to mariscxhub.com for more ways to connect with me and learn more about experience management. Until next time, I'm Gary Mara, working hard for your customer and your success.